Hey everyone, welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage on this Sunday, December 29th, 2024. My name is Hunter, and we're tracking a couple of interesting things in the weather department here, including severe weather today with the system that moved through the deep south producing all of those tornadoes yesterday. We're going to be diving into that and more of what that storm could bring, and a big pattern change into early January that could bring a substantial winter storm to parts of the United States. We're going to be outlining the probability of that and what you can expect from that as we go into early January. If you want more information on winter weather forecasts and snowstorms, ice storms, anything like that, severe weather coverage, you come to the right place. Subscribe to the channel down below, like the video by giving it a thumbs up, and of course leave any comments, questions, concerns below. You know, we always get to those after the video. Looking here at our temperature anomalies for today, it's another mild day across southern Canada and the United States that will carry over into tomorrow as well on the 30th. But notice the blues starting to show up here across the Pacific Northwest and southwestern Canada. That tells you that a pattern change is starting to come to fruition as we get to the end of this year and beginning here of 2025. You can really see on New Year's Eve here on Tuesday, December 31st, we start to get those blues, those deeper blues and those greens there in Alberta, British Columbia, and Saskatchewan and the northwest United States, some of that bleeding down into the central United States. That means colder temperatures are coming. Not necessarily Arctic air quite yet, but just in general some colder temperatures than what we have been seeing. Let's look back to yesterday where we had a pretty strong tornado outbreak across the deep south closer to the Gulf Coast. Here are your storm reports from Saturday, December 28th, 2024. We had a total of 37 reported tornadoes from southeast Texas in and around the Houston region up toward Jackson, Mississippi there into parts of Alabama and Georgia as well, just outside the Atlanta area, reporting a tornado yesterday. There's that storm system, the parent low, up into southeast Michigan today. Cold front attached to that as it occludes, and we're going to see that all the way down toward Florida. The eastern side, the warm sector here from Virginia southward to the outer banks of the Carolinas, coastal Georgia and Florida, we're going to keep an eye on more additional storms that could fire up, that could become severe. Here are the storm reports so far today on Sunday, December 29th, 2024. Notice some damaging wind reports coming in across the central and western Carolinas, a few of those down in Georgia and northwest Florida as well. Thankfully, zero, a goose egg on the tornado report so far. Hopefully that remains the case. Here's the radar depiction this afternoon. We got the low pressure, it's occluding up here into the eastern Great Lakes. We got the deformation rain band, which really should be snow this time of year, but it's too warm. So we're going to see rainfall across Michigan, down into Indiana here in parts of Cook County there in Chicago. And then the severe weather side across Virginia, the Carolinas could bring a line of some showers and storms, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts, some hail, maybe an isolated tornado threat this afternoon. A lot of that becomes a little bit less organized as we go into this evening, and that'll move off the coast. So we're really looking at more isolated severe weather coverage into the evening here in the outer banks of Virginia and the Carolinas. A little bit of some marginally cold temperatures start to mix in there in southeast Canada, mainly there for northern lower Michigan or southern portions of Ontario. Could have some snowflakes mixed in there with that as well this evening, and then that will turn over to snow showers as those temperatures do cool down into early Monday morning. We got the cold front moving through New Hampshire into Vermont and Maine, eastern Massachusetts, so Boston probably waking up to some rumbles of thunder and some thunderstorms there on Monday morning. Let's look at the entirety of southern Canada and the United States here with this weather pattern. There's our storm system today that's really starting to occlude. Cold frontal low pressure system here. We have more severe weather off the east coast. New system moving across the west could bring some heavy snows to the Pacific Northwest, the Cascades, Sierras, and the Rockies out here as well. That'll spread some snow as kind of like a clipper system as we go into Monday across parts of South Dakota, Wyoming there into parts of northern Nebraska. Overall, this is likely to be a weak system, not a big snowstorm, not a big rainstorm, not a big severe weather maker either, and that'll be across portions of Ohio. Again, mainly rain, mainly liquid with this on Tuesday. This is New Year's Eve, but maybe just enough cool air on the backside. Places like Milwaukee, Madison, back towards Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Des Moines could start to see a few snow showers there as we go into New Year's Eve itself. So here's our precipitation over the next few days, going through Wednesday, New Year's Day on January 1st, 2025. Notice we got that clipper system. A lot of this will be rain, snow mixed, and then we have the heavier rain with the system today into tomorrow across the east. That's where we could see a couple inches of rain between now and then. Here's the snowfall accumulation as we go between now and Wednesday, New Year's Day on January 1st. Notice the Cascades out here, the northern Sierras and the northern Rockies see a couple of inches to several inches of snow, and then that clipper system could bring an inch or two of snow across parts of South Dakota, Nebraska, into Iowa, and that could trickle down towards Illinois, Wisconsin, into Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan as we go towards that New Year's Day timeframe. Let's look at the big pattern change that everybody's been talking about here as we go into early January of 2025. It's a new year, new weather pattern. So as we go into New Year's Day on Wednesday, January 1st through Sunday, January 5th, big troughs tries to develop, negatively tilted over here to the northeast. We got blocking up here northeast of the Hudson Bay up toward Greenland, also blocking up here into Alaska. So naturally some colder air is likely to spill down from the Arctic here, and you can see the origin of that up here way into the Arctic, all the way down through western and central Canada, and then into the central and eastern U.S., and there's a lot more where this could come from, because looking here at New Year's Day, now again, it's not Arctic air yet, but we are seeing colder temperatures. The real Arctic air is bottled up there into western Canada, but watch as it starts to ooze down into the northern U.S. by late next week on Friday, January 3rd, and then stick around as well into Sunday, January 5th. And oh, by the way, we have an active weather pattern that is setting up across the Pacific Northwest. We're going to have a low pressure developing up here, diving to the east southeast toward the Rockies. And where does it go past that point? Past the Rockies here is very important to who could see a winter storm, and a substantial winter storm later next weekend. And we're trying to figure that out right now. So let's look at a couple of ensemble models and some operational models to kind of get a better deal of what we're seeing here. So the European ensemble pressure locations for next weekend, all over the place across the Midwest, could be as far north as Wisconsin and Minnesota, could be as far south as even Oklahoma into Arkansas. So there's a lot of real estate here where these low pressures could develop later next weekend. Looking over at the GFS ensemble here, a little bit further east, but still kind of in that Midwest, Ohio Valley type of realm here with the lows really over Ohio by next weekend. And the CMC, the Canadian ensemble guidance, is kind of in that same ballpark really across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. So let's look here at some things. And again, I don't want to get too excited yet because things will still change over the next week here, but just kind of showing you how wishy-washy some of these models can be, and just not to trust one single model run. So last night, the European model here at 0Z was showing an all-out snowstorm, foot of snow easily for Chicago, Des Moines over here toward Detroit, right? Look at this morning's run of the European, same model, just a different run. Notice not a single flake of snow in the city of Chicago, barely any snow in Des Moines, and barely any snow in Detroit, and the snow track is a little bit further to the south and a little bit weaker of a system because of that as well. Same thing, last night's GFS run. Notice a little bit of snow, not much, maybe an inch at most for Des Moines, places like Chicago toward Detroit, maybe Indianapolis in the mix there. And then look at this morning's GFS run is similar to the Euro from yesterday and showing another foot of snow, a little bit further south, but maybe Des Moines, maybe the Kansas City area, Chicago. So just to show you this, that the models are going to continue to go back and forth on this solution, because think of it like a target. If you're farther away from a target, if you're shooting a bow and arrow, you're not going to hit the target as well as you think you are in the bullseye, right? That's what the models are thinking right now, is it's kind of just farther away from the target. Once we get closer to that target date, which is next weekend, the models are going to start to converge, and maybe they could hit the bullseye. So something to keep an eye on as we go into next weekend. The Climate Prediction Center, the experts over there are watching it just like I am, and they actually have a slight risk for heavier snow, where we could be seeing double-digit snow potential here within some of these tracks across areas with the dashed line here in purple, from Montana, swinging east through parts of the Central Plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and up into the Northeast and New England. But again, this is a slight chance right now, not a moderate, not a high chance. This is only a 20 to 40% chance of happening. So it's not a guarantee or a slam dunk that cities like Chicago or Des Moines or Kansas City or Indianapolis or even Lincoln, Nebraska get a major snowstorm. It's just not a done deal yet. We'll keep an eye on that. But what is a little bit more confident is the cold air on the backside. Now, again, this is still a little bit far out. We're into early January still, and this is the 5th through the 10th, so things can still change. They do have a slight risk for some hazardous temperatures, which could be, again, frigid air, below zero wind chills, below zero temperatures here. That is, again, a 20 to 40% chance of happening. Let's look at also the weather models for this as well, with at least the intensity of the cold. Last night's European model temperature anomalies, all out historic cold across the central and eastern U.S. for early January. This morning's run, because of the snowpack that we aren't seeing on the new run, remember last night was showing a foot of snow in Chicago. Deeper snowpack, colder temperatures. Less snowpack, not as cold. And notice how that is the case here on this morning's European run. Not as cold because the snowpack isn't as deep. So it's all about that setup. Looking at last night's GFS, notice it's pretty cold out here in the east. But look at this morning's GFS. Notice last night we had barely any snow on the GFS, not as cold. We have more snow on the GFS, it is even colder. So it's all about that snowpack here, and how that sets up across parts of the country as we go into early January will tell us how cold temperatures will get. Again, there's no point in putting snowfall forecasts out, no point in showing you the temperatures right now, because A, we don't know how much snow will fall, where the snowstorms will track just yet, and how cold they will be because of the snowpack, where they'll lay down and everything like that. And we will keep you covered here on this channel. So subscribe to the channel, check back often for updates, like the video, give it a thumbs up down below. Obviously, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those after the video. Share this video with friends, family, and on social media. Again, it's important that there still is some uncertainty on this pattern a little bit into early January, but we'll nail it down for you as we get closer. You know that on this channel. So hopefully everybody has a great other weekend out there.